Good morning and welcome to the November 9th, 2023 elected council meeting of the Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County. In our agenda are some of the links to our recent additions to our YouTube curation of programs, some from the Rossmore Interfaith Council, like the Big Questions, our last elected council meeting, and we did a regional report back on the Parliament of the World's Religions with members of all of the Bay Area Interfaith Councils. Our iCare projects continue to need congregational co-sponsorship, and if your group is ready to join, we're going to learn a little bit more about food for thought today in our community report. Our monthly book reading for the monthly Meaningful Mondays is continuing with chapter 17 to 19 for a December 4th meeting. Welcome to the Wisdom of the World and its meaning for you, universal spiritual insights distilled from 5 religious traditions by Sister Joan Chittister. It's been just a great book, and we thank Reza for leading us in that. And let's get started with our meeting. Our co-chair, Diane Maltester, is our moderator today. Take it away, Diane. Please unmute yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County. As you see, we one of the first things we try to do is approve the minutes from last month's meeting. And it was the minutes were in a PDF form. The only correction I saw is that Reza Sharif's full name was not used. So if he's okay with the short version of his name, we could, I think, see how people feel about if they saw any other corrections needed in the minutes. And if there's no other changes that need to be made, can we have a vote on approving the minutes?
You can use the reactions and you can raise your hand there to vote, or you can raise your hand on your screen. That'll help us.
So all in favor, raise your hands. Okay, it looks like it's been approved. Oh, do we need a second and all that stuff? We don't need that.
I think you're good.
Yeah,
I think you're good.
And then, is there any two volunteers to read our, or do you want to do that after your land acknowledgement?
Yeah, but you can ask for volunteers now. That'd be great.
Who would be the 2 people after Reverend Will does the welcoming? Okay, Dennis and someone else? Okay, Reza?
Thank you. All right, we have a video land acknowledgement. That is an amazing new video that I found about Indian Canyon down in the southern portion of the Ohlone people, and the how Indian Canyon became a refuge for Indian survival here in California. We'll watch the first portion of this video this month and the next portion next month.
I can feel the ancestors dancing when they connect with the ceremonies that are taking place in Indian Canyon. We've always been here since the beginning of time. Today is the best time for an Ohlone person to be alive since contact, because the ancestral spirits are starting to wake a lot of people up. My name is Anne Marie Sayers. I live in Indian Canyon in Hollister, California. And it is the only federally recognized Indian country for 350 miles along coastal California. This is Ohlone territory. which extends from San Francisco to Big Sur, from the Pacific Ocean to the Mount Diablo Range. Between 1887 and 1905, 91 million acres of Indian-owned land disappeared for the people coming west. To say you were Indian was suicidal. And when you have a Native woman watch her husband get killed, her son get killed, she is going to tell her daughter, say you are Mexican for sheer survival. During the gold rush, there were bounties on the heads of indigenous people in California. In 1854, the U.S. government paid $5 a head for California Native peoples. The resulting genocide and diseases killed nearly 95% of all California natives by 1880. California indeed is a golden state, but reality dictates that the foundation of California, the foundation of this entire country, is built on lies and deaths of Indians. The California mission system forced the Ohlone people into servitude and set the stage for the destruction of our culture. When the native peoples whom did not like the restrictions at the mission would run away, Indian Canyon served as a safe haven. We are right in the heart of the Gavilan Mountain Range. You have to be very intimate with the area to find the canyon. Cienega Road means swamp. Ohlone people who were able to navigate into the canyon were safe during the bounty era. When I realized the American Indian did not get the right to practice their religion freely until 1978 with the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, and I was horribly upset. And so I opened up my great-grandfather's trust allotment to all indigenous people whom are in need of traditional lands for ceremony. I am so happy you were here. There are a number of Ohlone descendants that have not healed. There's still anger there. And we have 9 sweat lodges, and I offer them to start participating in ceremony. And I'm watching slowly healing taking place. And for me, that's the reason for living. We still truly respect and honor our ancestors, particularly with all the development that has taken place in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley. Indian Canyon is sacred. You are surrounded by all the natural elements around you. I was born and raised here. My umbilical cord is buried here in this canyon, so I will always be connected. My daughter's umbilical cord is buried here in this canyon. She will always be connected.
We'll continue with the rest of that video next month.
Dennis, will you start?
In the I4C covenant, in solidarity with one another, we each affirm our gatherings are interfaith gatherings. We come together from diverse communities to be inspired and transformed by the rich diversity of the faith traditions. We commit ourselves to compassionate and active listening as we engage in respectful dialogue. We welcome those who might differ from us, seeking their wisdom and insights. Each of us shares in the privilege of growing in interfaith love and understanding. Our working together for a common cause brings us together in peace.
We are responsible for the work and the outreach of the Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County. The governing board provides the necessary oversight and will be attentive to the elected council's ideas, wisdom, and suggestions. We will strive to support and participate in the various outreach programs sponsored and supported by the Interfaith Council. We hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards as we grow together in trust and respect for one another. Our time together is the practice of interfaith understanding, cooperation, and respect. We hope our time together will bless one another, our community, and the world.
Thank you very much for that, gentlemen. And thank you, Will, for that wonderful video. Let's go ahead and go on now to our opening faith reflection. Ekanatha Pai, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Good morning and namaste. So Hindu community is celebrating Deepavali along with everyone for everyone's betterment. That festival of lights is starting today, actually. And it is celebrated as a 5 or 6 day festivities. And one common theme there is lighting of lamp every day. And when we light the lamp every day, we recite the prayer, Shubham Karoti Kalyanam, Arogyam Dhana Sampada, Shatru Buddhi Vinashaya, Deepan Jyoti Namostute, to mean that I'm lighting the lamp and wishing for everyone's health and wealth and removal of ill will. So that's the significance of lighting of the lamp. So Deepavali itself means row of lights or wine of lights, not the wine with the W, but the wine with the V. Lighting of lamp signifies the removal of darkness and removal of evil forces. Traditionally celebrated, like I said, as a 5 or 6 day festival, depending on which region you come from. But a common theme there is the entire Hindu population celebrates this alongside Jains and other communities. So families come together in celebrations. Typically, this is time of holidays, and families come together from various places and celebrate this as a family celebration. Typically, another thing that you can observe commonly is sharing of sweets and lighting of rows of lamps outside the homes. Typically, that's what you see, and sometimes celebrated with the firecrackers and the light-related the celebrations. Leading up to the festival, typically families go through cleansing the surroundings inside and outside the houses, typically signifying also purity in all aspects of life. Basically, it's not only the environmental cleaning, you're supposed to even look into the inside and outside of yourself, purify yourself. So the day one typically is, depending on who you are and which region you belong to, day one could be the 12th day of Hindu lunar month of Ashvija, celebrated as Govardhan Puja, which is a recognition of singular effort of Krishna to save the community when the skies opened up, poured rain and flooded the whole area. So saving the humanity and their possessions, this is the recognition of that day. Day two is typically, or typically day one for many, is the 13th day of Hindu lunar month of Ashvija, which is celebrated as Dhanvantri Puja. So, which is Dhanvantri is a person or a personality of medicinal background. So, it's a recognition of naturally occurring herbs and their use in health and wellness, recognition of healthy aspect of life and its connection to nature. That's the second day. And typically that night is the Taila Bhyanjana, or the oil bath, is performed in recognition of winter coming up and the good wellness aspect of oil bath in this season. So the day three or day two is Krishna Ashvija Krishna Chaturdashi, or the Naraka Chaturdashi, the 14th day of Hindu lunar month of Ashvija, is celebrated as the win over Narakasura and the freeing of the captive women held by Narakasura. So that is Naraka Chaturdashi. On that day also, some people celebrate, it has Dhanalakshmi Puja, Dhanya Lakshmi Puja. Basically, it's a celebration of grains and their use in health and wellness. Day five, day four is the no moon day, which is also celebrated as Lakshmi Puja, and it's the last day of Ashvija. And some people celebrate this as a new year or last day of the old year, and the new year celebration starts after this. So some communities use this Deepavali as the celebration of New Year also. And the Lakshmi Puja itself is a celebration of wealth and wellness through Dhana Lakshmi Puja. So the day five is the Kartika Padyami, or the first day of Hindu lunar month of Kartika. So it's celebrated as Bali Padyami, recognizing King Bali and his sacrifices. Farmers give a call to King Bali and celebrate the day in his name. So day 6 is the second day of Kartika, which is also celebrated as Bhai Dooj. It's called Bhai Dooj. Bhai is a brother. So sisters visit brothers and wish their wellness and longevity. They bring sweet fruit foods and share it with brothers. So that's the 6th day, and sometimes it's 5th day, depending on which community and which part of India you are. So in summary, the Deepavali festival symbolizes win of good over evil, reminding us to always take the side of good. Also, lighting the lamp is a symbol of expression of goodness towards others and bringing best in others. The sharing of the sweetness is a significance of sharing of our sweetness among community and be the best we can be in the community. Recognition of common good and highlighting the sweetness in our behavior and action. So with that, I wish this Deepavali inspire all of us to be our best and bring our best. Let's light the lamp of right knowledge and common good. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you
Peace be
so
everywhere.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ekanatha. That was wonderful. And now we have a section that we like to have our community partner report and Food for Thought project in West County. Dr. Erica and Dave Longhurst on eye care. So do we have that ready?
Okay, am I unmuted? Can you hear me? And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Dr. Erica Baines, who's the former chair of the Interfaith Council, is traveling in India doing service work. So she's not able to join in this presentation, but she briefed me and got me all up to speed so I could cover for her. The Food for Thought, it's a nonprofit in Richmond whose goal is to meet the needs of the food needs of the Richmond's poorest families in Richmond during the winter break. And let's see if I can, there we go. So the issue is that the children in Richmond, they're on subsidized school lunch programs. They go hungry during the winter break. They have help during the summertime from federal programs, but during the summer, they just don't, or during the winter break, they just don't really have anything. So the Richmond School District came to Erica and her team and asked if they could do something to help with that. And that was like, I think 4 or 5 years ago, this nonprofit was started as kind of just a local community group. And they've grown from serving like, I think 150 families the first year to this year, they're going to provide food for over 700 families during the winter break. They provide 4 boxes of food. I think it's like over 50 pounds of food, but it's enough to feed the entire family. In fact, they calibrated a little bit to the size of the family so that they have enough food for the entire family for 2 weeks. That food includes dry goods, meat, fresh fruits and vegetables. It's really high quality food. After they've packed all this food up in boxes, the volunteers deliver it to the 15 elementary schools that receive the food. And then the elementary school has a distribution process to get it out to each of the families who have that need the food. We need for the upcoming project, this project is always early in December because, right before they leave for the break, or mid-December, I guess. This year we need 150 volunteers, or the Food for Thought needs 150 volunteers. We adopted this as an eye care project last year and provided probably half the volunteers came from eye care. This year, we're kind of taking the whole volunteer effort and recruiting all 150 volunteers. We're so thankful for the 4 faith communities that have volunteered to be sponsors for this program, for this eye care program. And so you can see here, Temple Beth Hillel, Easter Hill, B'nai Tikva, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Walnut Creek are all sponsoring communities. I think the assembly occurs at Temple Beth Hillel and Easter Methodist Church. And so we're so thankful for them, particularly for hosting this event. I'm going to just show some videos. Let's see if I can make this work. I'm going to show just some videos of last year's packing so you get an idea of what it's like. This is the fresh fruits and vegetables packing. Got people organizing, people putting them in boxes, they go around. It's just a hub of activity. And let's go to the next. See if I can make this advance. Okay.
They have it down to a science. It's really a great opportunity to serve.
Yeah, thank you. Well, shoot, what did I do here? I'm now in edit mode. Okay, here we go. This is now delivering the food to the schools, the box of the school. These are all the boxes that get delivered. And then that's the meat bags, with, I think last year we had 2 chickens in each bag. I think we'll probably do the same this year. And now I'm just going to show some volunteers, and everybody seems to really enjoy it. This is, you see Diane there on the left. I think she's with, if I remember right, this is like one of the school principals or one of the administrators at the school, as well as other volunteers behind. And then this is just a group. This was where we were packing some of the dry goods, and a group that was packing there. And again, it's really nice because you get plenty of time to just mingle with people, and you know you're involved in a very good cause. So with that, here is a link where you can go to the Sign Up Genius, and let me just copy that link, and you can volunteer. That most of our iCare projects require just a small number of volunteers. So normally the sponsoring faith communities provide all the volunteers. But because this is such a big effort, we're really opening up the volunteer, opportunity to volunteer from everybody in the, in the community, including all the, people who are in the interfaith world. So feel free to share this link with others. I can post it to the chat if that's helpful. I'll do that after the event. But let me just go now to, let's see if I can get this to work. I want to go to Sign Up Genius. Let's see. Okay, where is it? Here we go. Okay, can you see this now if I make these big? So can you all see the Sign Up Genius now? Okay, great. So you see at the top of the Sign Up Genius all the various projects that we have that you can volunteer to be a sponsor for. So they got White Pony Express, which is an ongoing project. Thanksgiving Fixings Bags, which is a project that will be done this weekend. Actually, tomorrow we'll be assembling at Peace Lutheran Church, so you can see all the information about that project. And the four faith communities are listed here that are sponsoring, as well as all their volunteers. And then here's the Food for Thought project, where you can see a description of the project. And then down here is where it starts with all the volunteers and the various days that the volunteers are needed. So that's just wanted to show that to you, so you could go in and just sign up for what you'd like to, how you'd like to volunteer. I wanted to highlight one other project. This is called the Core Food Project. This is a project that we're working with the county on. They have employees that go out to homeless people, and they're trying to create a relationship, an ongoing relationship with people who are without housing. And once the idea is, once they have a relationship, they can get them the services they need, get them into permanent housing. And they like to be able to deliver something like a food bag to those that are without housing. And that helps just create a relationship. And so they're asking for food kits from our, that we provide food kits to them so they can deliver to the people who are on the streets. We have one faith community, the Unity Christian Church, or Unity Church, not Unity Christian, that has volunteered to do this project in December, and we're looking for another congregation to join them. So we'd love it if one of the faith communities would jump in and participate in this project. And feel free to just reach out to me if you have any questions. Okay, let me pause there. Any questions from anybody?
Dave, I'd just like to make a comment that there says certain churches are in the lead, but that doesn't mean that you can't sign up there. Feel free to sign up anywhere. Is that correct?
Well, for the Food for Thought project, that's correct. For other projects, typically, the sponsoring faith communities will promote it and recruit volunteers. Occasionally, they may need help from other people outside of their faith communities, and they'll reach out if they do. But I think just I want to make that distinction that Food for Thought is different than most of the projects in that respect. Okay, any further questions for me? Thank you very much. And Diane, if you would like, since Eric Patterson is up next, I'm happy to just do a quick introduction.
Sure.
Yeah, let me just pull up my, okay. I met Eric Patterson 8 or 10 months ago and was just really thrilled with what he brings. He is the president of Religious Freedom Institute, located in Washington, D.C. He's the past president of Robertson School of Government at Regent University. He was a research fellow at Georgetown University's Berkeley Center of Religion, Peace, and World Affairs. He's had 2 stints at the U.S. State Department, where he spent time in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Congo, and Angola. Has a wealth of experience, and I'm just thrilled that he would take the time to be with us today and share what Religious Freedom Institute is doing and the good work they're doing in really protecting religious freedom and standing up for religious freedom. So I'm going to just turn the time over to Eric to share his thoughts.
Well, good morning, everybody. And David, it was such a pleasure to meet you. It's hard to believe. I think it was November 30th or December 1st of last year, and to start this opportunity for us to talk and specifically about a tool for communities called the American Charter for Freedom of Religion and Conscience. And on the one hand, I think we really are at a time of great dynamism and where people of faith are more willing to work together, I believe, than I've ever seen them in our country. And at the same time, we're at this time where there's a tremendous amount of fear and polarization in the country. And I think that all of us, I think that most of us around the country could read your guiding principles here at the Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County and be reminded of some of these key points. I really respected what you have to say here about we sharing the privilege of growing in interfaith love and understanding, and starting with love of neighbor, the golden rule, and the recognition that every person is made in God's image and has that dignity. At least that's how we understand it in my own Christian faith tradition. And the emphasis on understanding, cooperation, and respect, that we can have deep theological differences and yet love our neighbor, want to listen to what they have to say, want to learn more about their faith, want to learn more about what motivates them and what their core convictions are. And that's because of our love and respect for them. So I think that that's all right on the money. And I really like this challenge that you have that says, have you been to the 5 closest congregations near you that I saw later in your notes? And I think that is that's a wonderful, wonderful thing for all of us to aspire to. I'm kind of well known in places where I work of taking coffee breaks and just walking around and ending up in people's offices, including in different floors of the building with totally different companies. And they say, how did you get in here? I just came in to see what you're doing. My name's Eric with the Religious Freedom Institute. And by the way, it's really amazing if you just kind of show up like that, the opportunities to make new friends and to learn. So I applaud that. And I hope that you're all accepting that challenge of getting out to see those 5 nearest congregations. Well, at the Religious Freedom Institute, our mission is to advance and defend religious freedom as a fundamental human right, so something for everyone that's inherent to the person, as a source of individual and social flourishing, both for individuals, but also for groups, for public and for private. And third, is a driver of national and international security. In fact, this afternoon, I'll be doing a briefing with 2 other people for the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom on the grotesque religious freedom violations that Sunni Muslims, Shia Muslims, and Christians face at the hand of violent Islamists in West Africa. But today I'd like to present to you briefly a tool that's freely available to you and to your organization called the American Charter on Freedom of Religion and Conscience. I'm going to share my screen in kind of a low-tech way. Let's see here. Can I share? I hit share. Let's see if this works. Can you see my screen? I bet not. Hold on.
Not yet. Now
Can you
it's
see
going.
that? Great. I'd like to tell you about this moment. This was the launch of the American Charter on Freedom of Religion and Conscience at a public event in Washington, D.C., just before COVID. COVID kind of stopped these major public events. But if you look on the stage, you will see representatives from the Black church. You'll see the Baha'is. You'll see different strains of Islam. You'll see former U.S. Congressman Frank Wolf, the great lion of religious freedom. You'll see Catholics, evangelicals. You will see the leading representative of the Krishna Consciousness organization here in the United States. you'll see a former president of the ACLU on stage there. And right in the middle, standing right at the center is a former Clinton administration official, Bill Galston with the Brookings Institution. And what brought this beautiful group of people and dozens and then hundreds of others together was to publicly affirm that they believe in religious freedom, not just for themselves, but for all of their neighbors as well. And a strong belief that having deep disagreement over theological things, but civility towards one another, a willingness not just to talk, but a willingness to listen and to learn, is really probably the best hope for ending polarization and creating a climate of mutual respect in our fractured country today. In fact, the American Charter document talks a lot about e pluribus unum, out of many one. And that out of many one, this national slogan, does not mean conforming to all the same things. It doesn't mean being bland or monochromatic. It actually means recognizing, just like fabric is woven together from diverse strands, what makes it richer and stronger, more beautiful, that type of vision for our own country. And so what I'd like to do is take a few minutes and talk about the charter itself, and then open it up to any questions or comments that you have. I'm going to switch away from this beautiful screen image to a different image. Give me just a moment. Can you see this, the American Charter? I think you can.
Yes.
The American Charter is a document that's freely available to you. I'm going to put in the chat the links to it. We had a crash early this morning of both our primary website and the independent American Charter website. Our website is back up and running now. But I want to make available to you, I want to hit what kind of the key points are in this document, and then ask you to think about running an event in your own neighborhood, in your own constituency, that brings people together to sign the charter in a public demonstration that is really designed at our next generation of voters and taxpayers. And people tell me all the time, I'm so worried about our youth. Well, it's our job to model publicly what real respect, civility, tolerance, pluralism, and civil disagreement looks like. And the American Charter is designed to be that. So let me say a bit about its content. And I'm just going to briefly, rather than do a slideshow, just walk you through some of the commitments or the convictions that are in the American Charter that you can see on this table of contents. The American Charter begins with the idea that religious freedom is not a gift from government, that throughout human history and across civilizations, although we have very different views about what religion looks like, nonetheless, that there's a natural impulse for humans to seek spiritual or transcendent significance, or to look for wisdom in the theological writings or the teachings of a spiritual leader. So it's a birthright in the sense that by being a member of the human race, we recognize and respect the fundamental right of every individual to not be forced by the state to go one way or the other, but to search for truth themselves. Article 3 talks about the fact that it is not just the First Amendment of the United States that calls for not having state coercion in matters of religion. And it's not only rooted in international law that nearly every country has signed on to, but it's important not just for minorities, but for religious majorities as well, to have a fully independent sphere, both as individuals and collectives, to seek the faith, to practice the faith, to raise their children in the faith, to learn about other faiths, to enter or to exit faith. That's what we mean. And by the way, you notice I mentioned majorities. When we talk about individual rights and we talk about religious freedom, we often recognize the terrible plight of religious minorities, whether they're Uyghurs, Rohingya, Christians in the central belt of Nigeria, or whatnot. But let me remind you that state coercion often targets its own majority as well. Think about a place like Iran, where the majority of the public also is under the thumb of a repressive, religion-oriented ruling elite. And who's been in the forefront of the pro-democracy movement It's actually been men and women of the majority faith using religious symbols to call for freedom and human dignity for everyone. So Article 4 puts the emphasis on us as citizens, that we have an obligation, we have a duty to stand up for the religious freedom of our neighbors, for their rights of conscience, for their rights of belief. We talk about how in Articles 5 and 6, how religious freedom is a first freedom in the sense that speech, conscience, the right to assemble, private property, the right to publish, that these things are inextricably tied to the religious freedom both of individuals and their faith communities. It's important to realize that religious freedom is not just an alienated individualistic right. It's not a statement of radical atomization, but that it is a community right. And so we argue for and respect the importance of religious nonprofits, of houses of worship, of religious communities, of dissenting minorities, but that it's both an individual and a collective right. Well, I think you'll get a sense as you look at those titles: E Pluribus Unum, Vigilance, Habits of the Heart, A Healthy Civil Society, Civil Public Square, The Dignity of Difference, that this document has a rich sense of grappling with the twin issues of how do we have pluralism and difference? How do we respect diversity? And at the same token, see ourselves as all part of a common project. And we believe that unlike the old maxim that you don't talk about religion at Thanksgiving dinner, that's exactly what we should do, is in our communities, is to seek opportunities to share, to learn, and to demonstrate that respect publicly. I was blessed by the statement earlier today, in speaking about Diwali, when our brother talked about the sweetness of action. If I got that right, the sweetness of action. And so the American Charter is designed to be a tool for action. It's really to be we created it with some grant monies. It went through a 2.5-year process of public comment around the country. It had academics, religious leaders, and others. Most of the writing was done by the public intellectual Os Guinness and by the Brookings Foundation scholar and former Clinton administration official Bill Galston. And then we've had many, many people sign on to it, but it's designed to be a gift to you. What I would love to see is in your cities and in your county that you take a public hall and that you bring together civic leaders, religious leaders, education leaders, and others, and that they publicly endorse this event. The perfect event is one where you have many young adults and students there to see their parents and the next generation, the one who's currently in leadership, modeling for them something that is so different than what they see on TV or in movies or on social media. Adults working together to say, we value the religious traditions, regardless of if they're different. We respect our neighbors, even if they voted differently than we did. And the American Charter is a great tool to that end, I believe, for you and for your community during these highly polarized times. I really do believe that we need concrete tools for hope, and that we have to model that to our young people. School assemblies, public events, at our churches and other places. Imagine for just a second if we could get our houses of worship to hold an event in front of their young people where they saw their leaders say, I love these people even though they're different from me. Now, I know that's what you do at the Interfaith Council. What the American Charter is designed to do is to take that show on the road, to take it out of the private meeting and take it into a public space and provide a forum. In the Charter, we do have a study guide that goes with it. You can use it with a small group. You can use it with a large group. You can use it in a public era. Let me just end. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And let me just end by saying, may God bless the work that you do. It is so critical, and not just the charitable work. When you're feeding people and things, I mean, that is life-giving and life-affirming, but also the fact that by working together, you are a witness for the kind of country that we want to have. One where we don't gloss over difference, but that we love those who are different from us. And we're telling especially our young people and we're kind of throwing it back in the face of a very polarized media right now. Americans are better than this. So with that, I will stop. I'd love to take any questions that you have. And of course, I can be a resource to you. Our organization will help you if you want to run an event, but this is freely accessible to you. We don't own it in that sense. We'd love for you to use the American Charter. Thanks.
Ekanatha shared a link, and Rodney shared another one where they've downloaded it. And I think there were some questions about if there's a newer version.
I think the second one seems to be the one shared today. So
yeah, so I put 3 things in the links, and like I said, there's a website that's americancharter.org. That and our primary website were down this morning. Our contractor was doing maintenance unexpectedly this morning, so the links from our website work. By the end of the day, americancharter.org, which is a freestanding website for the American Charter, will be out there. The second and third links are video testimonials, one from Jacqueline Seymour, Jacqueline Rivers. Many of you are familiar with her and her work on religious freedom. And the other one there is by Anutama Dasa of the Krishna Consciousness Society of North America.
Eric, did you say you posted those to the chat? Because I don't see anything from you in the chat.
You know what? I didn't hit
There it is. It just came through.
That's because I pre-put it at the beginning of the meeting and was waiting to press the button. I waited too long.
Okay. All right. There it is. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Does anyone have any other questions? Reverend Ronnie? Or no, is that, oh, you're thankful.
Clapping hands.
Yes, that was wonderful, Eric. Thank you for your time today and sharing that with us. And hopefully we will be able to do more with that in the future, be able to incorporate that.
We have some questions for our dialogue today that are based on these other questions, and it's these 3 questions that are in your agenda. What does your faith tradition teach about freedom of conscience and free will? What do you believe about conscience and free will? How can we respect each other's viewpoints, especially in times of conflict? So I'm going to put those into the chat room here in just a second, and we're going to divide up into small group for conversations here. Let me see that. Oh, there we go. So here's the questions into the chat room for everyone. And here's our breakout rooms into 6 different breakout rooms. So just hit the join button when it comes up on your screen, and we're going to come back at
9:45?
9:30. Well, 9:35. So you'll have 20 minutes for the dialogue. We're on time today. So yeah, we'll
and don't forget to have someone take notes and be prepared to report back to the group.
Yeah, we're asking for the top 2 sharings, but if someone can take minutes and email them, or even just a brief report of what was discussed, that's helpful for us to have in our minutes that we can share with one another. Welcome back, siblings. Do we have someone that's taking minutes for our meeting today? Diane or Dave?
I have been taking some minutes, so I can do that.
If you can do that, that would be really helpful. Our group in room 1 are Cynthia Peters, Dennis Wasco, Latanya Bynum, Ginny Ali, and Pastor Willie McDaniel. Who among you will be your reporter? Please go ahead, Cynthia. Here, has to unmute. Did that help? Just the top 1 or 2 things that came out of your group discussion.
Well, I think we were frozen for a while there. Cynthia Peters, I think we were group 3. So who was group 1?
I was group 1.
I was group 1. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Cynthia, you get a report?
Yeah, go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay. Well, yeah, actually, they were pretty similar in terms of Baha'i spoke, CME spoke, let's see, Christian Church of DOC, Roman Catholic spoke, and all of them really had this idea of, that we are given this freedom because of our belief in God, and God gives us the freedom so that we have this opportunity to be ourselves and think in our own way. And let's see, Dennis mentioned too that how much the Roman Catholic Church has changed in the last 50 years, so that there's much more religious freedom, real, as he said, real religious freedom in consciousness and so on in the past 50 years, moving away from earlier history where the church was more connected with kings and so on. So anyway, found it all very, very interesting. And this whole idea of respecting others, showing kindness, love, and decency, those 4 items are like pillars or pillows to stand upon. So
for a soft landing.
A good group.
All right. Room 2 had David Longhurst and Ekanatha Pai and a couple other people that have had to move on. But you want to share?
Yes, I took some notes. So we had 3 of us, David, Susie, and myself. So David, Susie represented Sufism. I think David represented Christianity, and I come from Hindu community. And we each one of discussed, and we came to one conclusion that all religions have the divine light and have an equal path. So we talked about truth that is time bound and location bound, truth that is extended, time and somewhat universal, and the capital truth that is the eternal, that is not time bound or location bound. And so in summary, so what we said is, for a truth seeker, the commonalities become the guiding light and the differences become insignificant. I hope I captured that okay, David.
Yes, very well done. I really like the idea of capital T truth, which is eternal truth and not have anything to do with history or relation. It's really the high level concepts and principles that I think virtually all religions hold to. We have that commonality, that we don't have lower capital T truths about, what do you believe related to, what happened in history, and how does that all relate to where we're at now, but or even taking sides in current conflict, which which is not part of capital T truth. It's a little time town, but I think we can transcend that to help us to sort of navigate these troubled times, to look for capital T truth and look for that commonality.
The Jains really love that search for capital T truth as well. We don't have many Jains in our midst, but that's something Father Tom reminded us of today too in my group. Room 3, Carolyn Peters, Dr. Dale Weatherspoon, Diane Maltester, Greg Cremenly-Evan, Reverend Rodney.
So I
Who's your reporter?
I'm going to try and reflect back. Please yell at me if I got it wrong. So Carolyn reflected on the opening Native American California Indian reflection, and it sparked in her a reflection of her Catholic faith and how the freedom of consciousness is really a complicated thing within the Roman Catholic Church. General group cohesion and a follower mentality seem more valued in her thoughts. And she lifted up the history of the complicated history of the Catholic Church, the Inquisitions, and even the current conservative bishops, wondering if a more liberal thought of self might not exactly be supported even right now. And she lifted up a couple of issues important to her, like women priests, women deacons, other current, more non-conservative thoughts within the Catholic Church. Would those be allowed or encouraged in a kind of freedom of thought way? Reverend Witherspoon, United Methodist Church, reflected on the general conferences and kind of explained to us that in his experience of those conferences, freedom of conscience is not really valued at all, especially when looking through a racial lens or a LGBTQ issue lens. And lifted up that now the votes are being tallied in more of an electronic way, but traditionally they were done as public votes, and there were pressure placed on people to vote in your block and with your block, and that if you didn't vote with your block, then that affected your placement in the church and where you may or may not be serving. He also lifted up that conservative groups often travel to Africa and attempt to influence block votes by buying phones or paying for college as ways to subvert freedom of conscience. And again, I hope I didn't misconstrue any of that. So if I did, please clarify. Diane is representing the Disciples of Christ and lifted up that freedom of conscience is very much part of her denomination. She lifted up the importance of searching for personal truth underneath the affirmation of Jesus, but that it very much that freedom of conscience is a value for her faith movement. Myself, as a Unitarian Universalist, I lifted up that we actually have a principle that binds us together and really underscores the importance of individual responsible search for truth and meaning. So it is built into the core foundation of our faith movement, which has its own complexities, especially if you're trying to serve a very diverse in thought group of folks. But it is a very prominent and well executed principle within my faith tradition. And then Greg lifted up that very similar to Unitarian Universalism, Buddhism, which is his practice, his faith tradition, also really centers individual freedom of consciousness and search for that kind of capital T truth. I hope I got it all right.
Room 4, Kate Newkirk, Leonard Doran, and Sabra Suharwardi.
Okay, I'll share. So like the other groups, we had a really diverse group. We had one person who's a Muslim. We had one person who's Jewish. We had myself, Unitarian Universalist, and we had Eric Patterson with us, who is our guest speaker today on religious freedom. So it was a really wonderful discussion. So I won't get into all of it, but they each pointed out that at least their experience with their religion, it is focused on tolerance and welcoming of all people. For example, Leonard mentioned that Jewish people at their Seder dinner, they welcome the stranger, they have an empty seat. And also Sabra mentioned in Islam that tolerance is big and respect for others. Let them live, is what she said. Of course, Rodney already talked about UUism, that we have a personal search for truth and meaning in our own spiritual path. And also we really take to heart the democratic process and even revising our principles and values at this time. Mr. Patterson is an evangelical Christian, and he pointed out that in the first few centuries of Christianity, it was different, and it wasn't power-based and the state wasn't used, and that a lot of Christians are getting back to kind of their origins, and that was really a strong theme, as Sabra said, that all religions at their origin are based in love and they're not based in hatred. And if there is any hatred or bigotry, that is taught later and it's not part of the original religion. So that was really the theme of our group.
Thank you. Room 5 was Ben Jones, Reverend Josie, and Reza Sharifzadeh.
I think you are on mute, Teresa.
Sorry. Also, we had Naomi Elrich also in our group. It was an exciting group, combination of Christians, Judaism, Baha'i, and Islamic Sufism. And basically, as everyone kind of pinpointed, the ideas is pretty much similar, all focused on life and choice. So all faiths say that the choice to choose the right or wrong, but all religions' faith leads to choose the right. And the right is equality, freedom, joy, happiness. And when we get to the consciousness, individual awareness of your unique thoughts, memories, feelings, sensation, and environment. Or as the Sufism teaches, it's a state of being. And that state of being is source on a source in every individual that is unique to that person. But at the same time, that source is all the same with everyone else. You could call it energy, anything. But that source is reflections through the senses, the feelings, and it's all the same. That's where all the faiths is focusing on being unique and leading into freedom, equality, and respect. That's a kind of a general aspect of it. There was some individuals' inputs, when it gets to will, there was a confusion about how would the will, is I will, is it that creator will? And like it was mentioned, how Jesus was unique and so loving that even at the extreme pain being on the cross, he's praying for everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Reza. I'll share from Group 6, which had Father Tom, myself, Christine Nadeau, and Charlotte Jin. The one different conversation that we had, there was a lot similar with other conversations, but we also talked about conscientious objection and the right of people to take stances against being forced to do violence against their will. And my son, who when he was 13 or 14, taught me this lesson when he wanted to make sure he wasn't going to be drafted for the war in Iraq. He actually studied and wrote his own statement of conscience that he didn't feel like he should be forced to go to war. And it was quite an interesting time to help him claim that for himself, but also document it with our congregation. And I even helped work to change our policies in the Presbyterian Church to help non-confirmed members, as my son was and continues to be, a baptized Christian, but not a confirmed one, to make that decision for themselves. Previous only confirmed members in the Presbyterian Church had their CO status documented. So lots of great conversation today. We have some community announcements.
Hey, Will.
Yeah.
Can I just say something? And I have to drop off because I have to facilitate another meeting starting at 10. But this has been an interesting conversation. And I was thinking there's a theoretical aspect to the right to consciousness, but putting it in practice, and it was just making me think of our government and how folks don't practice their conscience. They may be thinking one thing, but because of poll results or because of handouts or whatnot, feeling like they're going to get bullied, that they don't vote their conscience. And I think how things could be very different if we took the theoretical and actually applied it in our daily living. I think things around mass incarceration, segregated neighborhoods, and those kinds of issues would be very different if we voted our conscience and not for a group, so to speak. So it's a fascinating conversation that I'll be thinking about for the rest of the day. But I think there's a theoretical aspect versus the lived aspect.
Yes, and that's true for a lot of issues in our world, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple community announcements while you're thinking of yours to share. There's an unhoused resource fair, a free one, Wednesday, November 15th at the Concord Library. That's on our website if you want more information. And there's a Unity Walk Against Hate, November 18th in Pleasant Hill, starting at 10 a.m. I'll be there. Other folks will be there from our faith communities, and we invite you to be there. There's a couple different Thanksgiving services going on. One in Central County at Christ the King on Sunday the 19th at 1:30, and one at St. Timothy's Episcopal with iServe in the Interfaith San Ramon Valley at 4 p.m. that same day at St. Timothy's Episcopal. Then are there other community announcements folks would like to share? Yeah, Rodney.
So we're also offering a community harvest meal on Friday, November 25th, I believe. The 24th. Yeah, day after
Thanksgiving.
Yep. And I'll put that on the Interfaith calendar. I have not done that yet.
Thank you. Other community announcements that you'd like to share?
So just quickly recapping, the Seva Diwali Hindu community is running last several years during the time of Deepavali is still actively being conducted this year. So we serve locally, but it's a nationwide effort. So I shared the link also, just if anybody is interested in knowing that.
Thank you. As usual, we're still invited to be present with our Jewish and Muslim and Eastern Orthodox siblings as we grieve all this going on in the Middle East. If you're able to attend services, I sent out contact information for each of those congregations and in all of our different regions. So if you're able to attend Juma prayers on Friday or Shabbat prayers, some of them are on Friday night, some of them are on Saturday morning. So check out the website of the different congregations. Leonard, when does B'nai Tikva host their service? This week? I ask you to unmute. We can't hear you. Sorry, Leonard. Well, anyway, you can look it up on online. For most of the congregations have a calendar. And Tom?
I just wanted to alert everyone, it's not nearby, but in San Antonio, Texas, beginning a week from tomorrow, is the Society of Biblical Literature and the American Academy of Religion that goes right up to the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I'll be attending it. Over the years, the Society of Biblical Literature has expanded to the faith traditions of the world, and so has the American Academy of Religion. Usually, well, not usually, but typically, very, very important papers are delivered that have a lot to do with much of the concerns that we have within the interfaith community. And I hope that I can make a little report when I come back from that meeting.
That would be beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, if anyone goes to different faith conferences, we'd love to hear reports back, whether it's the Parliament or United Religions Initiative or other groups, North American Interfaith Network, others. Leonard, did you have anything you wanted to share?
No.
Okay, well, let's continue to stand in solidarity against all of the violence in the world and protecting each other's consciences and free will as well. Diane has our closing benediction today.
It comes from the book we're reading in the Meaningful Mondays, The Welcome to the Wisdom of the World by Joan Chittister. And she received a note from a woman who is just a letter thanking her for her writings. And she was in a new section of her life. She was 55 years, and she wrote to her. And the woman was now about to enroll in her MA program in culture and spirituality, and she was looking to go on. The woman was decided to do that and go on and get her doctorate degree. And she said, the purpose of my letter, she went on, is to thank you for your stalwart position on the right of each of us to find our own story. And then the author's comment was, when I finished the letter, I knew there was a serious difference between insisting on the right of people to find their own story and the willingness, the courage, the determination of those people to do it. I'd like to think that I had something to do with encouraging a woman to begin again, of course, but in this mettle, or the spirit or courage of the woman herself, but it is the mettle of the woman herself that made the difference. Life. The letter signaled clarity is a choice, not always perhaps. We are all thrown into so many things, not of our own making, not of our own desire, but ultimately it is what is inside of us, not what's outside of us, that makes the difference. Everyone gets into periods in their lives that seems endlessly gray, totally gone. Life always ends before it begins again, just as night precedes the day. That is exactly what spiritual resurrection is all about. It is also what psychology resurrection implies. To really be alive, we must be willing to put down our phase of life after another, to put down one phase of life after another, to refuse to spend life treading water in any area of one phase. Life is for living, for those who intend to keep on living, whatever the cost may be, because to do anything else is to betray creation. And she mentions Elan Vati, the zeal to be. I can't.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. A reminder that our Ministering Together newsletter is online at MT-Fall 2023. And our interfaith calendar, if you have an opportunity to be with folks of other faith traditions, we encourage you to do that, and check out the YouTube editions that continually get updated as we have different programs that get recorded there as well. Have a great week. Consider how you and your congregation can serve.
One quick announcement.
Sure.
Our church was left off of the Thanksgiving services, and I know it had been added previously, but ours starts at 10 o'clock at the Christian Science Church at 409 Boyd Avenue.
On Thanksgiving Day?
Pleasant Hill, 10 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day. Thank you.
You have a service on the morning of Thanksgiving at 10 o'clock. That's great.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing. Please put that on the calendar if you can and share it.
It already is on the calendar, and somehow it wasn't announced. So that's why
I missed it. It's not on. It didn't make it to our calendar. So maybe email it to me and I'll add it to the Interfaith calendar.
Okay.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.